Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint-Germain family. A few hours ahead of the Paris Saint-Germain versus Aston Villa game, and I thought to myself to react to this video, how Aston Villa tactically beat Paris Saint-Germain. Obviously, this video is made by the Villa guy, the villains that made the video previously. That video, he said a lot of good stuff, so I'm ready for something great here. Let's do this.
This game plan beats PSG. Villa fans, PSG fans, you are in for a treat today. I have come up with a game plan for this game, and I'm going to show you how Aston Villa can beat PSG. Villa are in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. We are not going into this game feeling like we can't win because it's the Champions League. Of course we can win. Of course, as Villa fans, we have to believe that we win. Unai Emery will believe that he can come up with a tactical masterclass against Luis Enrique. So what we're going to do on this episode, we're going to break down the whole game tactically. We're going to take a look at PSG, the areas in which they will want to get into, how do they attack. We'll take a look at Aston Villa on how we attack, how we set up. We're also going to take a look at an average position of all Champions League games that both teams have played, so we'll be able to see where different players are occupying space on the football pitch. And we're going to take a look at how I believe Villa can win and where I feel like the game will be won, where are the key battles, what areas can Villa capitalise on, and how do I feel like the first leg is going to go, what do Aston Villa need to do to get the victory in this game. So we're going to take a look at PSG first. We're going to take a look at how they set up, what shape do they want to get into, and what can Aston Villa fans expect from PSG. So PSG fans, Villa fans, if you're enjoying this content, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and enjoy the show. So PSG, generically they will set up in a 4-3-3, but that is not what they are. They are a fully hybrid team under Luis Enrique. There's lots of rotations, there's lots of movement, there's lots of hybrid shapes in essence with their defending, and then the further we go down the pitch, we've got X factor, we've got creativity, we've got flair, we've got a bit of everything. And this PSG team, as I've said before, are a wonderfully coached team, and they are very, very good. But they are beatable. Villa can beat this PSG team. So how do PSG move into their attacking shapes? So we have 4-3-3, and they will revert into a front six. Now, how do they get to that front six? And what happens is both fullbacks, Hakimi on the right and Mendes on the left, will move into central spaces and occupy these spaces through here. What you'll see from both of their heat maps is that their heat maps generally drift inside these areas and then merge a little bit more centrally into these zones as well. You'll find that happens on both sides. You'll see that both wide players, whether that's Barcola or Kvaratskhelia, will stay high and wide through here. Main focal point and striker in this team is Dembele. So both fullbacks will get into these central...
What happens also is that the fullbacks of Paris Saint-Germain interchange. So as you can see, he has Kvara and Barcola on the wings and Hakimi and Nuno inside. Sometimes it's Kvara and Barcola more inside, closer to Dembele, and Hakimi and Nuno hugging the touchline. But so far, yeah, everything seems to be good.
We will have Neves and we will have Ruiz, who will occupy spaces on either side. Vitinha will be the one that will make up that hybrid back three. So they will leave themselves high with two central defenders, and this will be Beraldo in this game. Marquisio is suspended, and then we will have Pacho as well. And Vitinha will be the one that's sort of making up that hybrid back three, and he'll be occupying space around these areas. And then you'll get one of these players, Neves, who will move into more of a central area. We'll have Ruiz as well. And then we've got this hybrid front six, and then we've got a seventh player through there as well. So this is the shape that PSG really want to get into. They want lots of overloads on both sides. We've got an overload on here. We've got an overload on this side as well. And then we've got central attacking areas with players inside a central area as well. So in essence, this is the build-up, and this is how PSG want to...
And he's correct, like this is how PSG want to play. But I would say the main difference between, because we're a possession side, obviously Lucha is, you know, of that Cruyff, Pep Guardiola thingy. But one thing we also can do and love to do is counterattack. So if Aston Villa ever dare to press us or leave space in behind, Paris Saint-Germain will be ready to counter. But yes, with Aston Villa wanting to sit back in this game, Paris Saint-Germain will try to push Aston Villa as deep as possible and then have the 2v1s and so on.
And want to be able to get set into their structure. It's all about keeping a territorial advantage, camping the opposition into their own half with lots of different rotations, lots of different movements, and about keeping the opposition defence pinned in with this structural shape in what they've got with that little triangle and that back three as well. So that's PSG in a nutshell.
Okay, yeah.
Aston Villa system, hybrid in itself, but with a few more different variations depending on personnel and what we want from the game. So I'll briefly talk you through all of them, and then I'll touch on the one that I feel like Aston Villa will go with in this game. So Matty Cash, fullback, can have the licence to attack and go forward and go into those areas. If Aston Villa's right back is asked to go forward, what you'll find is that Boubacar Kamara, the deep lying central midfielder, will be asked to cover and screen Matty Cash that goes forward. In turn, we then get a hybrid three at the back with your left back going forward and offering width through there as well. You may get the left-sided player inverting, and then Luca Dean is the one that's offering the width through there as well. If, for example, we've got Leon Bailey, who's offering the width, then we might not want the fullback to be able to go up and down because our width can come from Leon Bailey, who will be staying high and wide anyway. You may get some overlaps as well, but that job, we don't really need him to do that. And then Boubacar Kamara doesn't necessarily need to be screening the fullback because he's not going too far forward anyway. So that's another slight variation that we've got. If we decide to go with Marcus Rashford high and wide on the left-hand side, then what that will generally mean is that Luca Dean's job, he doesn't really need to go up and down either because your width is coming from Marcus Rashford on the left-hand side. If we're having the width on the left-hand side, the width then can sometimes come from the fullback who's going into that area as well. So we don't really necessarily always play with two wide players actively in attacking positions. We rotate with what we're doing with our fullbacks as well. For me, for this game, away from home, I want to go with a hybrid right back. I don't want my right back going into these attacking areas at all because I think the big battle is in central midfield. Aston Villa have to win this battle. The three of PSG, Neves, Vitinha and Ruiz is so strong, and already you can see that we've only got two players in there and PSG have got three. The overload is already there. So what we don't want Boubacar Kamara having to move out of this central midfield position and have to start screening a right back, because what you're then doing, you're leaving too much space. Boubacar Kamara then...
The only thing I want to say here is, looking at what Aston Villa want to play, you know, you want to have as many players in the middle against Paris Saint-Germain, especially if you're going to sit back. And if they're going to play players like Rashford, I don't think Bailey will start, but if he starts and Rashford starts, you got two players, obviously more dangerous, more threatening on the counter-attack. You see that midfield is so open. That midfield is so open, especially if you can have an Asensio who doesn't, work and track back as much as some other younger athletic players. This could be a problem for Aston Villa.
Has to travel to engage in central midfield. So for me, Boubacar Kamara has to stay in that central area. I don't want him going anywhere near there. That leads me to believe that Unai Emery will go with a hybrid right back. Disasi. We will play with three centre-halves. So you could take your pick on Pau, Konsa and Disasi. Disasi in that area, really strong, not having to go further forward. That's your hybrid back three. Luca Dean can then go forward, but then can shuffle across as well. But Luca Dean's defensive work...
The thing is, you don't want to play a Disasi, especially because of Bradley Barcola being in those areas. Like, Barcola is a runner in behind, is one of the best in the world. And yeah, Disasi will never catch up to Barcola. So the stuff I don't understand is, I feel that the formation is a bit too attacking from Aston Villa if they're going to play like this. You need at least a three-man midfield versus PSG, probably as an attacker that drops down, or the wingers work very hard off the ball. But if Rashford is going to play, if it's going to be Barcola, even Matty Cash, like Barcola will still probably do a good job, but Disasi, no.
He's absolutely quality. So I believe he will be in this area as well. Rashford, high and wide on that left-hand side, offering that width. And then on the right-hand side, an asymmetric style. We can have someone who's going to be attacking out wide as well, but we then can have someone who can drift inside as well. And then your front two, you've got Morgan Rogers dropping and making up a three in midfield. Then that's where you get your Rogers, who will be sitting on Vitinha and stopping Vitinha getting on the ball, moving into those areas, man-for-man marking Vitinha, and then we man-for-man in central midfield. We've got three players up against...
Because he mentioned this in his previous video about the man marking Vitinha, and we haven't really seen a team try tactically to do that, but it'd be very interesting if Aston Villa do that, because one thing that Vitinha lacks of, one of his pretty much only weakness, is his physicality. He's obviously not the strongest player. Majority of the time he wins the ball back, it's due to interceptions, not tackles or duels won. So Rogers, somewhat man marking him, being very physical on him, could be a bit difficult this game. The only thing is, if Rogers is doing that, that means Fabian Ruiz and João Neves versus the other two midfielders, and then our fullbacks pushing up. In my opinion, I think Aston Villa should play more defensively. I think they should have Rogers as a right midfielder, and then add like a McGinn in midfield next to Kamara and Tielemans or something, because I feel like this is too offensive.
against the PSG 3 as well. Ollie Watkins up top, he will be running into channels, he will be the width of the 18-yard box. You won't see Watkins out wide. He will be very, very central and waiting to pick up on the balls over the top or running into channels, stretching the PSG back line. And then you've got pace and power from Rashford as well. So, in essence, this is how I expect Villa to line up. Hybrid 3 at the back. We've got a player that can go into these areas as well. And then we've got that sort of front 4 as well. If we need to make a front sort of 5, then we can have that extra midfielder, and then you've got your front 5 with Tielemans attacking, Boubacar Kamara, and everybody looking really defensively sound as well. So that's how I expect Villa to line up, and that's how I expect it to match against PSG. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the two teams who I believe will play, and we'll have a look at their average positions, and we'll merge it all together, and we'll get a bigger picture of what we can see on the football pitch as well.
All right, excited for this.
So I just wanted to bring you a little bit of a case study then on the Champions League and the average positions of the Champions League. So I've gone with the two lineups that I expect. So we've got Villa are in the red and we've got PSG in the blue. So we've got Luca Dean, Pau, Konsa, Disasi, Kamara, Tielemans. We've got Rashford, we've got Rodgers, Watkins and Leon Bailey. Here we've got Beraldo, we've got Pacho, we've got Mendes, we've got Barcola, we've got Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, Hakimi, and then we've got Vitinha, Neves and Ruiz as well, very, very close together. So it's interesting to see the pattern of both teams in the Champions League on their shapes and where they want to get into. And obviously it's kind of what we expect. You've got Hakimi, who's getting into those attacking areas. We've got that midfield 3 of PSG who are rotating around, and these are average positions. So this is where they're averagely positioned over the course of the whole of the Champions League so far. Obviously we've got different little permutations that Disasi's only played the odd few game, Kvaratskhelia has only played the odd few game as well, but we can really start to see rotations on all of the positions in which they're played in, and you can already see that this is a very, very important area. And again, if you're looking at the game being mapped out, that defensively, if we're talking about Disasi being very high, then we know that we've got to really make sure we're doing defensive work in these areas to make sure that we are very, very solid in these defensive areas. But you can start to see little bits of areas on the picture of where Aston Villa will be able to exploit this area in particular. Hakimi in this average position. We've got 3 attacking players as well, average. And then here, big space, big space, big space, big space in between these fullbacks. These are the areas that Villa are really going to want to be able to get into. We're going to want to be able to get into these.
That is 100% true. Nuno Mendes obviously plays a bit more defensively, so it's a bit less on the Aston Villa's right-hand side, but on Paris Saint-Germain's left-hand side, 100%. When Hakimi presses up, especially because Marquinhos is suspended, it's going to be Beraldo defending those spaces. That should definitely be a target, obviously, for Aston Villa. But Paris Saint-Germain's average position is pretty much going to be like this versus Villa, probably more attacking because Villa will sit deeper. But Villa's, for example, there would not be they would not have 4 or 5 players in our own half. Like majority of the Aston Villa players for majority of the game would just sit back. Just like the Liverpool game. If I could check up the PSG Liverpool heat map in the first game when we beat them 1-0, I think Liverpool only sat back in that game. Let me see. Average heat map. All right, player average position. You can see Paris Saint-Germain, very offensive, only Pacho Marquinhos in our own half, and the rest are attacking. And then this was Liverpool's average. And that's exactly what I'm expecting Villa's average to be. Maybe they're going to press us. I hope they press us, okay? Because I hate these park the bus teams that we play and we just got to wait for a chance to open up. Hopefully Aston Villa dare to press high, dare to leave some more space in behind. But I think it's going to be the same story where Aston Villa are trying to pack up their entire attack on this line, maybe have some more defensive midfielders, maybe their midfielders will sit back. They would definitely do a better job than Liverpool, but I think this is what average position for Villa in the game would look like.
These areas with ball carriers, players that can carry the ball, move the ball up the pitch and get into these areas as well. So there are areas in this PSG team that Aston Villa will 100% be able to exploit. It's all about whether we are able to do that as well. So
another thing I just thought of is that Paris Saint-Germain, obviously, because we play so high up, one important thing for us is when we lose the ball, insane counter press. We saw that versus Liverpool. Every single time we lost the ball, we win it back in like 1-2. The thing is, though, that Aston Villa can improve for this game is trying to break that. Whenever you get the ball, make sure that Paris Saint-Germain does not be able to get the ball quickly as possible from a counter press, because that will keep the Aston Villa players tired. It will lower their mentality. So if like Rodgers receives it and goes past, I don't know, a Vitinha or a Fabian Ruiz, opens up an opportunity for Aston Villa. I'm looking at him and Marcus Rashford. They are the players, when they get the ball, when Aston Villa has been pressured by Paris Saint-Germain, they need to win their individual duel and create an opportunity for Aston Villa. That's how they're going to get their best chances this game, by beating the counter press.
So average positions over the course of the Champions League so far, this is where the positions of the players are being mapped out as well. So when we're talking about PSG attacking, this is how I've mapped it up and where major matchups are going to be. So we've got player out wide for PSG, player out wide for PSG. We've got fullback who's inverted, two centre-halves, Vitinha, who's screening that back two, and then we've got the PSG two central midfielders. For Aston Villa, this is how I expect us to be. Back four. But the back four can be very, very narrow. What you can expect from Aston Villa is that we can match up and double up on that wide player. Then we become a back five. We become a back five with the ball on that right-hand side. If the ball then moves to the left-hand side, you can expect this player in Rashford or whoever plays out wide to come across, and then the situation will be similar, and then we become a back five when we're shuffling across through there. The beauty of Villa having three centre-halves and a full-back is that defensively we...
And that would be very important. I saw that in the second half versus Liverpool. Liverpool did someone like that. Luis Diaz was dropping as that fifth defender. That will obviously be very helpful whenever Paris Saint-Germain try to group up on one of the flanks.
Narrow, and we can spread the width of the 18-yard box. Then at times when pressure becomes and when we're having to do a little bit of work that is difficult and we're having to suffer a little bit, we can also then become a back six. So the six can become that situation through there. You've then got your double pivot. We've got Rodgers that can drop in there, and then we can become a 6-3-1 when we needed to defend. It's all about making...
Okay, that's peak terrorism, man. That would be difficult to break down. That's why it's so crucial for us to get an early goal, so we don't have to watch this for 67 minutes.
Sure that these players are doubled up on all times. We cannot allow a 1v1 out wide. That would be a non-negotiable for me in this game. We cannot allow Kvaratskhelia, Barcola, Doué, Dembele. We cannot allow them to be 1v1. We cannot allow them to be 1v1.
And that's the difficult thing with Paris Saint-Germain. In some teams, like in Madrid, you're like, you can't leave Vini in a 1v1 and maybe Rodrigo. In Barca, you can't leave Yamal. I wouldn't say that about Rafinha. But Yamal, you don't want to leave him in a 1v1. But for PSG, it's three players on the pitch all the time. Three players. Even Nuno Mendes cooked Trent. I wouldn't say Hakimi has that cooking ability for him. It's more runs in behind like a Rafinha. But yeah, you don't want 1v1s.
On their stronger foot and then getting shots on at goal. So it's vitally important that Villa double up and that we are making sure that we are defensively solid, dropping into a back six, dropping into a back five. And these are all tactical adaptations that are part of an Unai Emery system. This isn't something new. This isn't Villa parking the bus. It's not Villa just defending for our lives. It's being tactically aware that this is how we can defend and how we can get into specific situations when needed. These are the shapes that we need to get into as well. Aston Villa pressing against this PSG team. I'm about to show you something that I believe Unai Emery is going to do. We know Aston Villa are 4-4-2. When we're pressing, we're going to become a 4-3-3. I'm going to show you how right now.
All right, I'm very excited to see this because, as said, I don't expect Aston Villa to see this. I have seen so many teams play Paris Saint-Germain de Luis Enrique, especially at the Parc des Princes, and never presses. Like they presses in one moment, maybe one moment here, and then they don't press us. But let's see.
4-4-2. This is the 4-4-2 shape. When the ball is in this area, you will often see Villa just moving across into a 4-4-2. 4-4-2 covers most dimensions of a football pitch. And Villa, often, if ball's on this side, we press, we all move over, and that's how we generally move around when we are out of possession. Out of possession in football is very important because in this game, you might think, oh, PSG, knocking it about the back, Villa, shuffling across, moving across, and it's very, very generic on how we're moving around. But you can control a game of football without the football. Because what you can do is you can move and manipulate the opposition into specific areas. For example, we know that PSG want to be hybrid. We know they want to get into that. But we need to stop them from being able to do that. So allowing them to move the ball out here, congesting the pitch over this one side, shutting out central midfield is very, very important. You can do that without the ball. Now, Villa are 4-4-2. So we know that if we are pressing in a 4-4-2 shape, this player is always going to be free. But Villa, tactically, if we press in a 4-3-3, we can stop that from happening. This is how. Rashford goes high, balls with this player. Rashford high, Watkins high, Rodgers. Shut out the passing lane into Vitinha. How else you do that is you're doing it because you're stopping this ball from being able to go into this area by pressing in a 3. How it becomes 4-3-3 is you'll have Kamara, Tielemans, and a wide player. So we could say Bailey. And what they end up doing is we go here, and we go here. Note now that we are in 4-3-3, and we are completely shutting out the areas into this area through here. We're stopping the ball, we're going...
I mean, that would be a great idea for Aston Villa, shutting down, our presence in the midfield, which is our main strength, probably tactically. The only issue when you press a Paris Saint-Germain, which we saw versus Liverpool for the goal, is Ousmane Dembele. He's maybe going to bring it up as well, but Ousmane Dembele is the key if we say Aston Villa are trying to do this, because then Ousmane Dembele basically becomes a fourth midfielder. So he's trying to take our entire midfield, and then Dembele becomes the fourth midfielder. You see that space on the right side? Nuno Mendes loves to give those to Ousmane Dembele, and suddenly you have a 3v4 if Dembele can receive it. Barcola hasn't shown us that he can receive it under the press when a defender is behind him. Unfortunately, not yet. But he can obviously be making consistent runs in behind. And then Kvaratskhelia, so strong. If he gets the ball there in a 1v1 situation, it would be very favorable for him. But obviously, this is a risk that Aston Villa could take. I don't really know how great they are at pressing. As said, I still don't believe they will press us in that many moments. But this could be a very strong thing for Aston Villa to do in this game.
Man in midfield, and we're stopping it going into those areas there. The big thing for Villa in this game is winning our duels. If we have to win all of our duels, we have to make sure we are being aggressive, we're winning the aerials, we're winning the tackles on the ground, and we're making it very, very difficult. So by going into this 4-3-3, when we press him, it's going to be very important to making sure that we're not isolated through here. Having Bailey out there in a 4-4-2 and allowing one midfielder, whether it's Vitinha, Ruiz or Neves, to be able to just pick up the ball, turn, drive forward and attack these spaces would be an absolute disaster for Aston Villa. So we have to find a way tactically on how we're going to stop that from happening. And Villa going into a 4-3-3 out of possession when the ball's here is something I can see working really well. Again, I've showed you how it can work when we're on this side here. So you've got Rashford, Watkins and Rodgers. When it goes out to the opposite side, we're the same situation because we are Bailey, we are Rodgers, we are Watkins, and then we are Kamara, we are Tielemans, and we are Marcus Rashford. Again, we're at 4-3-3, 3, and then you've got 3 inside that area as well. So that's how...
If Villa play like some of a mid-block like this could be really tough for us. Because, first of all, we cannot play the long ball. A lot of teams love to play the long ball. The only one we can play to is Barcola in behind, but like playing a long ball to someone to head you or something, we're not going to be able to do that. Well, what you would probably need in a position like this is like Hakimi gets it quickly and he quickly gives it to Kvara on the wing or Barcola, or Nuno Mendes tries to cook his opponent, which is always a great way for us to move out of the press. But obviously, Beraldo, for me, this would be a huge game for him. If Villa press like this, if they have this pattern, Beraldo's progressive passes will be huge. We obviously haven't seen them in a great way ever since the Sociedad second leg last season, when he impressed us so much with his passing ability. But yeah, let's move on.
We can keep shuffling across from side to side, and we can just keep flipping it and moving it and working around through there. So Villa out of possession, that's what I can expect. And that's a little tactical thing that I think we can do to navigate through this midfield area. Now, PSG will want to get into this shape majority of the time. 2 at the back, Vitinha, Neves or Ruiz, vice versa, rotating, moving around, etc. Wide player, full-back, and then we've got 2 midfielders and a striker, okay? Now, when PSG are attacking and getting set, this is how they're going to want to attack. How do Villa attack PSG? PSG will leave 2 centre-halves up top, and we've seen that Aston Villa against Bayern Munich, Arsenal, Manchester City can exploit this situation, one of the best teams in Europe at doing it. This area, Villa can exploit and dominate and create massive amounts of problems for PSG because Ollie Watkins on that shoulder, ball over the top, they've got huge problems with Watkins' pace because that is isolation. Watkins sits himself on one of their central defenders, boom, ball over the top, peels over, and he's away, he's running clean through. That is a situation that I think Villa will try to get into and look to exploit. We can go short, we can go long. We play out from the back, or we can go straight out long and try and exploit them as well. 2 full-backs that are getting forward and wanting to get into those areas.
That's a dangerous thing because even though it didn't happen that many times versus Liverpool, sometimes it happened. And if, Salah or Luis Diaz made the correct decision, it could have been a very dangerous chance for Liverpool against us. Obviously, Pacho and Marquinhos were amazing in their duel winning in that game. Yeah, that could be a potential problem for us. Obviously, that's the thing with this Aston Villa front 3. It's more athletic. It's younger. Rodgers, Watkins, even Rashford, who... The thing with Rashford is it's like a chance, like who knows, Rashford could have one of those games. So it's a very athletic attack, a lot of pace, a lot of physicality as well. I mean, Jota, Pacho treated him as a kid. Salah got treated as a kid by Nuno. There was no physicality, there was no athleticism. but this one is definitely more. Especially Watkins like a striker. We didn't face that versus Liverpool. Like Jota false nine, that was not it.
Anyway, it leaves massive amounts of space here and here to be able to exploit as well. If you can get into those areas quickly and you can exploit this area, this area, and this area, the space behind here and here, that is one area that Aston Villa are going to want to be able to massively be able to exploit as well. But the also massive issue for PSG is that Aston Villa have very, very good players that can carry the ball, that can drive forward, that can dribble. Morgan Rogers can burst through tight areas and get Villa further up the football pitch and enable us to be able to create opportunities by being able to dribble and drive forward. That's one of the big makeups of an Unai Emery team, is the ability to have ball carriers on the ball as well. So Villa exploiting those areas is something where I can see Villa getting massive amounts of joy in this game as well, especially away from home when you're having to sit into these areas and then quickly you're having to be able to.
And that's a little bit the difference between Liverpool and Villa. We forced into Liverpool playing in a way they didn't want to play. Villa will probably want to play like this because this is how they play versus most big teams they have faced.
Break, nick the ball back. I think it's something that Villa will definitely be able to target. So where are the major matchups within this game? Where are the key battles? There are quite a few, and we'll run through them. So key battle number one, Kvaratskhelia up against the Aston Villa right back. If it's Disasi, then 1v1, Disasi, very, very strong, very, very powerful, very aggressive, but he won't be able to do all of that on his own. He's going to need his cover from the player that plays in front of him to come out and help double up on that area as well. So that's key battle number one. Battle number two, exactly the same on the opposite side. If it's Doué, if it's Barcola, then you're going to need to be able to double up on that side as well and make sure that you are protecting each other. You're not allowing a 1v1 situation, because 1v1's in football. If you're going to do 1v1, then you are asking for trouble as well. The next area is the triangle in the middle, key battle. We know that we're going to have Vitinha, we're going to have Neves, and we're going to have Ruiz as well. So it's important that Tielemans, Kamara, and the number 10 for Aston Villa are in this area, making sure that life is very difficult for those players as well. Next key battle is going to be the PSG centre-half up against Ollie Watkins, pace round the channels, dragging players out of position. You drag that player out of position, then you're able to maybe move around and get another little runner that can go through as well. Options at one.
I hope Lucio does something where it's Pacho majority of the time defending these kinds of counterattacks, especially against a player like Watkins and not Beraldo.
For Aston Villa, pace, those are massive, massive key battles. Special mention to Emi Martinez. He knows what's coming his way, hostile atmosphere, so he also will be more than prepared to do the job and get a clean sheet away from home, up the Villa. The big thing for Aston Villa as well is our bench. Our bench is very, very strong. We've got different personnel for different game states. If Villa are 1-0 up and trying to see out a lead, we've got players like Onana that can come on. We've also got Maatsen that can come on and offer different options. He can occupy central areas and play more central. They are taking around, and then one of these players ends up getting a little bit of a tap in as well. They are poor at defending. PSG, in my opinion, are very, very weak and poor at defending. They are Aston Villa set piece coach Austin McPhee, one of the best set piece coaches in Europe. He is that good for Aston Villa. And this is an area in which PSG, in my opinion, are very, very weak and poor at defending. They are poor at defending set pieces, they are poor at defending balls, and they are slow to react to second phases within set pieces. So for Aston Villa to be really creative, which we are.
Okay, first you mentioned that Aston Villa are a great set piece team, which they probably are, and could be a bit dangerous, especially against PSG. I do agree when it comes to corners, because it's more about height. When it comes to corners, we are fragile. I mean, we had to defend for our lives versus Liverpool on set pieces. But when it comes to like over the top balls, we are a bit better. I think Quanchas, when he hit the post, came from an opportunity like that. But majority of the time, because we do the offside trap, we don't get any. But if Aston Villa are that good of a set piece team, they could definitely do some danger.
We scored against Leicester. Everybody expects ball to go into here. As soon as the kick taker takes the ball, two players run into that area, little ball over the top. Times the run to perfection, everybody scrambling around, and then one of these players ends up getting a little bit of a tap in as well. Another little option, which we've seen so far this season with Aston Villa, is the ability to have two different sets of players on both sides, and then you end up with the ball that will go into this side over here. Villa players move forward, PSG players slow to react, Villa player will end up peeling off, and then you get the goal that comes in through there. So we've got different set-piece routines when the ball goes into this area, second ball into here. If one of these are slow to react, then you can get different options. But Villa are really, really creative on set pieces. PSG, from what I've seen, are slow to react to things that are happening in and around here, whether it's following runners, tracking runners, second phases, players peeling off players, getting options, take shots, little deflections at the keeper. Sometimes he has a bit of a mare, you know. This option for me, set pieces, is a crucial game today. If the game's tight, the game can be won on fine margins. So don't take for granted set pieces and that Villa are very dangerous at all types of set pieces. We've got long throws, we've got corners, we've got corner routines, short corner routines. We've got the delivery of Marcus Rashford as well. So this is a real tactical look at what I expect to happen and a lot of the things that could come into fruition in this game. Now, I'm not for 1 second saying that PSG are a bad team. I'm an Aston Villa fan. I believe in my football team and I believe that we will tactically get this right. I've no doubt that PSG are a good team. I've said this on every single episode that I've done, that they are coached really, really well. But Liverpool got it tactically wrong against PSG. There is no denying that they got it wrong. This midfield three of PSG ran absolutely riot because it was far too easy up against the Liverpool midfield too. You cannot allow this...
I mean, one thing I just want to put, the thing with PSG Liverpool, it wasn't just tactics, it was the talent as well. So even if a team tactically match up really well against PSG, the talent then will take over and still overperform.
This team
But yeah,
to dictate play. We have to be on top of this midfield. And if we can compete with the midfield, then the rest of the game plan can sometimes take care of itself once everybody knows their individual roles as well. Beat some really good teams this season in Champions League. We've beat Bayern Munich, PSG haven't. So you can see that we are still a very, very good team. And Unai Emery will tactically have Aston Villa spot on for this game. So I'm excited for it. Do I believe my team can win? Of course I do. Of course I do. What would be the point in not believing your team can win? So I've took a real tactical look at this and hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've got insight. If you're a PSG fan, you've got insight on how we play, what you can expect Villa to do, and then vice versa. I've showed what I think the areas in which you can get into, the areas in which you could cause Villa problems, especially in these wide areas as well. So it's going to be a really intriguing battle. Hopefully it goes back to Villa Park as a competitive fixture. So everybody, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Drop a like, drop a comment. Up the Villa.
well, a very interesting video. I mean, after watching this video, I don't know, it feels like my belief about Aston Villa is even better because this is what I like. This is what I like. An actual logical sense on why this guy believes Aston Villa will beat Paris Saint-Germain. I still think, obviously, he strictly took it from the narrow, how can I say, eyesight that Aston Villa are going to come back into this game. It didn't mention too much of the potential mistakes Aston Villa could make, the mismatches, what PSG could do because of its talent, and even tactically, like Luis Enrique could find holes in this Unai Emery system, which no one else has seen. But no, I absolutely appreciate a video like this. This guy knows about Paris Saint-Germain. He knows how we want to play. He knows the weaknesses in our team, which Aston Villa can look at. Obviously, Unai Emery will be looking at that as well. But yeah, I mean, I found a lot of small stuff that Aston Villa can do correct, which could eventually potentially lead them to beat Paris Saint-Germain. So yeah, another great video here by the villains. Appreciate this video a lot. If any Villa or PSG fan obviously watches this video, they will definitely have a lot of information heading into the game. He definitely gave me the insight of Aston Villa, their strengths on set pieces, how they want to play, how they're used to playing like this, and how he's saying Liverpool got it wrong and so on. But yeah, very interested into the game later today. And yeah, and as usual, allez Paris.